again, welcome. I know a few more people have jumped on the call since we started. Since we last met in October for the Tech Talent Summit, we've had a few changes in leadership. Todd Whitenack is stepping down after serving 2 years as the chair of our executive committee. And during his time, he was pivotal in helping the New Digital Alliance rebrand ourselves in early 2020. So before that, we were the New IT Alliance. And we'd love to extend a huge thank you to Todd for his service and everything that he's helped us do over the last couple of years. He will be continuing on with us on the executive committee moving forward. And so we're so thrilled to be able to keep him in that advisory capacity. Likewise, we'd like to welcome Pat Rolfie as the new chair for the New Digital Alliance and Scott Steinfort as the new vice chair. Pat is the CIO at Plexus, and this is a role he assumed back in October when Steve Gearhart retired. Pat also serves as the business representative on our higher education committee. Meanwhile, Scott Steinfort is the CTO at Community First Credit Union and has been a key member of the executive committee for the past 2 years and has provided us with invaluable insight and advice during that time. So I'd love to have you all help me in welcoming Scott and Pat into their new roles with the Alliance. And if we were all together, of course, we could give them a round of applause. So in addition to changes at the leadership level, we've also been looking at how we structure the work that we do. So looking at our key segments, the New Digital Alliance is driving initiatives across all age groups to help increase IT and digital talent in Northeast Wisconsin. We have a number of initiatives where we're driving K-12 and college segments, and we are working to grow in that professional segment. With that, and with the rebranding that we did back in March, we took a look at our strategy and developed some strategic pillars to help us focus our efforts. As we already had a lot of initiatives going on in many of the other pillars you see depicted on the screen, we decided to try and focus in that collaborate space in 2020 and 21 in order to try and grow opportunities for organizations to connect and work together. With that, though, we're continuing our fundamental principle of trying to grow, retain, and attract talent. So within that growing talent space, we are hosting a number of initiatives, among other things, our CS Advisory Board, where we pull together local school districts, colleges, and employers to participate in discussions that relate to preparing our youth for a digital future. The advisory board's in its 3rd year and has encouraged districts to create local CS advisory boards as well so that they can build on our regional discussions. Howard Suamico, one of the school districts that we work with, they started their advisory board about 2 years ago as a kind of an offshoot of the regional advisory board and are already experiencing some huge gains with having done that. They already have a plan in place for implementing computer science into kindergarten through 12th grade and are well on their way to actually realizing their full implementation plan. As of today, all K-5 students are receiving regular computer science rotations in school. And the goal is within the next year that computer science will be embedded in the K-5 curriculum throughout the whole district. At the middle school level, all 6th graders are taking a semester of computer science coursework, and that will be expanding into 7th grade, and they're looking then to see what they can do in that 8th grade year as well moving forward. Meanwhile, at the high school level, work's underway to build on the foundation that they have with their advanced placement computer science coursework, and they are working to add artificial intelligence, which will actually be dual credited to NWTC, and a cybersecurity and ethical hacking courses. They're looking to implement both of those in the next school year. They also have plans to create a data science, smart devices and wearable technology, and a cloud computing pathway as well within the next couple of years. So they've definitely been very busy in trying to move things forward and really provide some great educational opportunities for our youth. Sheboygan School District likewise has a computer science advisory board, and they're well underway with their pathway. Now they're offering just sort of a computer science degree program that's dual credited.
I like when I'm parked by these. I don't know what they are, but.
Can we mute our mics? Thank you. So we have, with the Sheboygan group, they are dual credited computer science pathway through Lakeshore Technical College, so that their students can actually graduate high school with a, my mind wants to say advisory, with an associate's degree in computer science. And then that allows the students to then matriculate over to Lakeland University with only 2 years remaining to a bachelor's degree. So in addition to running the regional computer science advisory boards, the Alliance actually sits on the Howard Suamico and Sheboygan advisory boards as well. And we also are participating in classrooms throughout the region, providing presentations, introducing students to the career pathways within the digital realm, as well as helping students see how digital skills are embedded in every career area. In November, we held our annual New Connect IT event. This event is typically held at Landmark Field, but was moved online this year due to COVID-19. And we'd like to really thank you to Inspire Sheboygan for helping us run these events. They helped out with the technology in the background for all 6 virtual sessions, as well as helping get word out to schools around the region, as well as across the state. Over the past 4 years that we've run this event, we've grown from 250 high school students to 360 students attending the face-to-face session. So last year we bussed in 360 students to Lambeau Field. And this year we had 600 students from across the state of Wisconsin participate in this event. We'd also like to send a huge thank you to all the professionals and the educators who participated on the panels to help make this event possible. When we look at retaining talent in region, each month the New Digital Alliance is providing an updated graph showing national, state, and regional unemployment, along with the national IT unemployment rates. And this data we're pulling both from the New North Intel tracker for the general unemployment, as well as from CompTIA's IT employment tracker. And this is allowing us to then see kind of what are we facing on a month-to-month basis. One of the key things, though, that has become very apparent is our challenge in finding IT talent isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, if anything, COVID has made it worse. Pre-COVID, IT unemployment was hovering around 3%. And now, back in November, which is the latest data I was able to pull earlier this month, IT unemployment's at 2.4%. So we're at an all-time low, and it likely isn't going to get any better anytime soon, which just makes the efforts of the Alliance that much more important. And not just our efforts, but efforts of many other organizations similar to ours, both here in the region as well as across the state, some of whom we'll be hearing from later today on our panel. So to help local employers connect with tech talent, the Alliance, we share unsolicited resumes with our investor companies. As we grow our collaboration with the Department of Workforce Development, we hope to be able to grow this number as they are connecting with individuals who have been displaced.
Kim, this is Sarah. I'm sorry, I'm just Sarah Jansen here.
Hi, Sarah.
On the tech talent line, where it's the orange line, is that national?
That is national. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you for the clarification question. Yeah, it's very hard to get the local tech talent numbers, but that is something we can maybe look to work on. So as we grow our collaboration, we're hoping we can help connect more of those job seekers to technical roles, in our local companies. We also have provided some resume reviews for job seekers, both individuals from colleges looking for their first internship, through professionals who've been with an employer for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years and haven't had to dust off their resume for quite some time. So we've sat down with them and helped them kind of polish that up a little bit before then sharing that out. Likewise, on our job board, we connect out to our investors' open positions, and we also help promote those open positions through our social media. So these are some of the things we're doing to try and retain talent here in region and connect them quickly to their next opportunities. Speaking of which, if you or anybody in your circles are looking for new opportunities, Fox Valley Technical College is looking for an instructor to help with their data analytics program that they're ramping up. And Faith Technologies is also seeking a senior data analyst. So please help get that word out. And if you know anybody who's looking for their next career opportunity, there are definitely some openings here in our region. New this year, as we're trying to grow what we're doing in this professional space, we are launching our Tech Connect Pro pilot on February 12th. We are partnering with Plexus on this. And this initiative is designed to bring together instructors from our local colleges, along with their career advisors, together with IT leaders from our partner organization, to share initiatives that they're working on, challenges they're facing, and so forth, with the purpose of creating partnerships and collaborations between companies and colleges that can lead to increased innovation, employee learning opportunities, and strengthened learning outcomes for our students. This is our pilot that we'll be launching, so more to come. And as we look to the future, as this one gets launched and we see what we need to check and adjust, we'll be looking to schedule additional Tech Connect Pro events with our member organizations. All right, I promised my speakers I'd be brief, so my last slide here. So if you're looking for more information, and I'll share this slide again at the end of the deck, we do have most of our meetings, we are starting to record these, so feel free to go and check out both the PowerPoint presentations and the recordings for our new CS Advisory Board meeting and Tech Talent Summit are out on our website. We also have our ecosystem fact sheet, which contains a lot of the data we've been collecting from higher ed, K-12, and even some employer data, which is also embedded within our annual report that is out on our website. All right, so enough of me now, and Alliance News, kind of trying to keep that short and sweet. And now on to the reason why we're probably all here today is to learn about some alternative talent streams for tech hiring. And with us today, we have several guest speakers, and I will, as I introduce them, I'll stop this so we can see their beautiful faces as they start sharing about their different organizations. So with us today, we have Joe, and Joe, you're gonna have to help me with the last name. Kirgues? Kirgues. Thank you. We've not yet, I think, spoken face to face, so thank you. So Joe Kirgues, he's the co-founder of the Generator program, and their program includes 45 startup music and art accelerators operating across 24 cities within the US. They have a corporate programming, including an on-ramp conference series, and they have an upskilling program that they operate across 4 states. And Joe will be sharing more about the amazing things that they're working on shortly. Also with us, we have Jennifer Turnquist, Client Director with Dev10, which is one of Genesis 10's talent creation program that's dedicated to delivering a new pipeline of technical talent I can't talk today. So the technical talent skilled on in-demand technologies, there we go. And Jennifer has been with Dev10's organization since its inception. Carly Kroll comes to us today. She's the Director of Education with NRC, or New Resources Consulting, where she drives the creation and delivery of education initiatives for clients. She's passionate about emerging technologies and their effects on the workforce. We also have Ankur Gopal, is the co-founder of, or is the founder, I'm sorry, of Interapt. They are an award-winning IT services firm working with companies and communities on digital transformation and IT workforce training. Recognizing the challenges companies face in finding tech talent, he created a skilling program that you'll be hearing him talk about today. And then last but certainly not least is Laura Schmidt, who comes to us from the Milwaukee Tech Coalition, where she serves as the Chief Talent Development Officer and is responsible for talent pipeline strategies in K-20, so all the way from kindergarten through college, as well as reskilling and upskilling to support the coalition's goal to double the tech talent in the greater Milwaukee area. So welcome, speakers. Let me just cancel out of my presentation here. And while I'm doing that, Laura, could you maybe share a little bit with us about kind of some of the things you guys are seeing in Milwaukee and some of the programs that you're starting to bring into the Milwaukee region?
Sure, and thanks for having me. I think that we have a lot of things in common with all of the different updates that you just heard. Kevin and I have known each other for quite a few years, actually. Really started getting to know her when I was at the K-12 level, and then transitioned to the higher ed level, and now am with the coalition. I think that our goals are similar. We really want to make sure that people have access to jobs that can help them become upward mobility or support upward mobility. Obviously in Milwaukee, we're a predominantly urban environment. And then we have, the 7-county region that sort of surrounds the city of Milwaukee. When we started, we only really started about 6 months ago. The organization is about a year old. It took a little time to get the organization off the ground. And then I was hired April 1st. And we started organizing ourselves around the strategy lanes, and mine are predominantly in the K-20 space and reskilling. One of the first things that our team identified, and I think this is important for all the people on the call, is the need to make sure that your supply and demand are matching. So it's really easy to talk about reskilling. There's a ton of reskilling programs. There's a million vendors. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that the jobs exist, and the right jobs exist. And one of the biggest challenges that we have, I think, in the greater Milwaukee region and probably all over, is that most employers are looking for mid-level talent. Unfortunately, if you can't find enough mid-level talent, you have to grow your own. And many are just getting to that point. It's in manufacturing, a lot of manufacturers understood that a long time ago. In tech, it's been more difficult. And so that's why we're here today, is really talk about non-traditional talent. So one of the first things we did is talk about the characteristics of an employer that we choose, that we really want to work with. And that's the model employer framework that we developed. It really was modeled after Pittsburgh. And that really resonated really well, because it wasn't just any employer. It wasn't just employers that were trying to hire talent from the coasts. It was really about those employers, at least on the reskilling side, that really were committed to local tech talent development. And the next thing we did is we took a look at all of the providers in the area that were already doing amazing things. And we formed a reskilling network, a preferred provider network. We have specific criteria for who those people will be. And Jennifer Turnquist is here from Dev10. They were the first to join. So we're very excited about that. And they're amazing to work with. But we have had many others join since then. And so, for example, we have the Academy of Advanced Manufacturing from Rockwell Automation. We have Registered Apprenticeship, which we're going to talk about. And we have New Horizons Business and IT Academy. We also have IC Stars, which I know isn't in your area, but they are a powerful force in Milwaukee, and we're just so excited to have them in our region. We have a returnship program for women who have left the workforce and are coming back, and that's sponsored by Mars Solution Group. And then we also have our workforce development boards that have specific programs that we partner with in terms of the work that they're doing. Right now, we're also starting to evaluate whether or not our criteria will support the ability to include higher ed for those things that are non-degree seeking reskilling programs, because we have a lot of great programs like that in the Milwaukee region. But we're really here to talk about, I think, at least I was asked to talk about apprenticeship. And the biggest thing that I would say before we get into our other presenters is that at the end of the day, every single one of these programs is amazing in its own right. They all are meeting a need. Collectively, we have more need than we can handle. And so we need everybody. The difference is in employer requirements, and every employer is at a different point in their search. And many of them would like to have people come in and be able to support them and have them be part of their permanent talent pipeline. Others don't want that at all. They prefer to outsource that talent development and have staff augmentation until such a time as they are able to bring on additional staff. And so both of these models are amazing. One of the things that we saw in the Milwaukee marketplace was a lack of opportunities for bridging non-traditional talent source programs to jobs that employers were feeling comfortable that the trainees really had the skills that they needed to be successful. And that's why we decided to dive into registered apprenticeship. And in the state of Wisconsin, apprenticeships are only recognized if they are actually registered with the state of Wisconsin. And so that's really important to know. We also knew that our employers were not comfortable pursuing large amounts of registered apprenticeships in tech. We had 2 years where we tried to get that off the ground in the state of Wisconsin, and we didn't have very many. And so we brought in a Department of Labor contractor to help act as an intermediary, and that's the Apprenti registered apprenticeship. They are acting as a service to our employers. It's not free, but they're amazing to work with. And the employers that we are working with have indicated that they probably would not have been able to move forward without that support. So that's what Apprenti is. Apprenti provides all of the vetting. It's a double-blind vetting resource that allows employers not to have to worry about unconscious bias. And they do a beautiful job. We have 111 candidates right now in the pool for 10 positions that we're trying to hire for right now in the Milwaukee region. And so they go through the process, they assess their skills, they determine which will be successful, and then the employer gets to make final selections. That's different than the regular registered apprenticeship program that we have in partnership with our technical college system. In that case, and we do have employers utilizing that too, they do all the vetting themselves, they do all the hiring themselves, they do all of the work with our state contacts to make sure that they're following all the compliance guidelines, and they're willing to do that work on their own. Many employers just couldn't or wouldn't. And so those are the two models that I think I was asked to talk about. I'm happy to ask questions later, but I want to yield any additional time to all the other amazing speakers here today.
Thank you, Laura, for that overview. And as Laura mentioned, we will certainly be circling back. And also, if anybody in the audience today has questions, feel free to send them in the chat and I'll try and weave them in. We do have some time at the back end of all the presentations here for Q&A as well. All right, Carly, tell us a little bit about NRC and sort of your model that you offer.
Yes, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with New Resources Consulting, NRC, we're one of the largest locally owned companies in Milwaukee. We've been around since 1994. We specialize in ERP, custom-built software, project and program management, large-scale data initiatives, as well as the placement of talent. We're certified partners with Oracle, Microsoft, and Epic, and we have lots of large employers that are our clients in the state of Wisconsin, such as Northwestern Mutual, Baird, Associated Bank, Uline, Manpower, Rockwell Automation. And so these are the clients we work with often. And why I'm here today is to talk about one of our initiatives. Is called the Talent Incubator, and it's under our Educate and Connect initiatives, which I oversee as the Director of Education at NRC. Our Talent Incubator is used to identify, train, and coach local and diverse talent to fill enterprise application roles. Our graduates have real-world experience through hands-on training, and as well as combined with traditional classroom training from both our consultants as well as any partnerships with higher ed institutions. Our program is a 6 to 12-month program, and during that time, the candidates are hyper-focused on a particular skill that was chosen by the client. So we have a client approach us. They say, we have a need for this skill, such as ERP. We want someone to fill this junior ERP role. And so we then procure talent and train them up on a project on site at that location under the tutorship and mentorship of one of our consultants who are subject matter expert. And so it's a combination of on-site learning, actually carrying out a project for the client. And when the project is complete, they now have a set of talent which then can be retained by that client, and they are specialized in that particular skill. Using the tools at the client site, they understand the culture of the location. They've been sort of incorporated into the climate of that particular company. And our retention rate, or our placement rate, excuse me, is 100%. So in our previous talent incubator projects with clients, every single candidate that went through the program was then placed with the employer. If for some reason in the future they chose not to retain the folks that were trained on their site, then we would retain them at NRC and use them as consultants.
Thank you for that overview, Carly.
Thank you.
Jennifer, share a little bit with us about Dev 10.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So like Kim said, Dev 10 is Genesis 10's talent creation company program. Genesis 10 is a national IT consulting organization based in New York. We have been doing business in Milwaukee for over 20 years. Northwestern Mutual was one of our very first customers as a company. Like I said, and like she said in my bio, I have been with the company for over 8 years and have been heavily involved in the different workforce development programs that we have created. I was on the launch team for Dev 10, which, to be honest, was developed specifically to address the supply and demand challenges that our customers were having. And to be honest, it wasn't just the customers, it was our recruiters that were trying to fill positions on the contract labor side saying, I can't find you another 2-year software developer. They don't exist, they're not out there, they don't, so we need to do something different. So the program really was designed around creating more talent. When we completed our first pilot and saw the effectiveness of it, we developed a national expansion strategy. Given our relationship with Northwestern Mutual and Milwaukee, we got connected into that tech hub. And it was a really natural partnership from the early days. You know, their goals of doubling tech talent in the region, retaining more of their local college graduates, increasing diversity in the tech industry. Those are all those things that our program delivers. So we were excited to be able to launch our program in Milwaukee last year in the middle of the pandemic. The way that it works at a very high level is we are recruiting STEM professionals. So our candidates are going to come into our program with a 4-year degree. The vast majority of them are going to be STEM professionals, but not computer science. So these are people that went to college for chemistry or biology or biochemical engineering and got exposed to software development too late in their college career. And mom and dad said, you need to stay the course, get your degree, and then figure out what you want to do. So they come to our program with that foundation. What's fun and exciting for me as a part of this program is the people that come into our program are incredibly passionate and dedicated to pursuing this career in IT. We put them through a very extensive selection process, a very rigorous, intense process that I'm sure many of them don't love. But what it has done for us is produce some very high quality graduates. They have to come into our program at a very high level. It's a challenging technical boot camp style training once they're selected by us. It's about 3 months of training. We've got a variety of technical tracks. Some of you may have seen the press release. We just launched a new technical track in the region earlier this week with a data engineering technical track, but we have a variety of software development technical tracks. And then once they complete the training, we put them on sites with our clients and give them ongoing coaching and mentoring. We have a very structured professional development program that they complete over the course of their engagement. And those are some of the things that we do to really drive high retention through our program. So across our entire graduation, we've graduated over 200 people since the program launched. we sit over 96% on the retention side after 12 months. So really high quality graduates coming out. Some of the other cool things about the program is the diversity numbers are better. Complete transparency, we did not set out for this to be a diversity program. This is a talent creation program. This is about supply and demand. But because we are casting a wider net from a degree standpoint, our numbers are organically better. So we have about 50% diversity coming out of our program. And that covers both women in tech as well as the people of color. So I know it's a really important thing for the partner companies that we work with to be able to help them on their diversity journey as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. Next up, let's hear from Ankur. Share a little bit with us about Interapt and your programs there.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Ankur Gopal, I'm founder of Interapt. We're an IT services company that is headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, but with offices in Atlanta, Chicago, and hopefully Wisconsin. We have actually got a interesting story where we couldn't find talent because we were supplying companies like Humana, Accenture, EY with subcontracting level work. And we actually had a purchase order for 100 new people that required 100 new people. And I said, great, let's go do it. And we only found 7 people that fit the bill and were willing to relocate. So that was 5 years ago. So as an entrepreneur, I don't want to ever, that's the worst story I can ever tell anyone, that we had our shot and we had to let it go. But I decided that when the event we will ever have this again, this will happen again. So let's solve for it. So we built our own training program. We didn't know anything about apprenticeship. We didn't know anything about, initiatives, what have you. But we just said we need to find talent because we can't recruit it. We can't win that battle. So about 5 years ago, I asked some of our key clients if they'd be willing to hire some people out of our training program. They said, no, we don't hire non-college graduates for IT roles. So I said, well, can I hire them and put them on your project? They said, well, go ahead. As long as you're delivering the work, we don't care. So I did that, and we have trained about 300 people since then. We've staffed them at places like, in Fortune 100 companies on projects we have. And now those same clients that said they didn't care what we did as long as we delivered are now asking us to build programs for them. So we have now expanded. Now it's called our apprenticeship program, registered apprenticeship program. Humana, being one of our key clients, has asked us, and we have about 200 plus people there right now, has asked us to look at other areas where we can use an apprenticeship pathway to help not only reskill America, but pull people out, from under the poverty line and above the poverty line, as well as solve their IT problems at the same time, or IT talent problems. So essentially, we kind of discovered penicillin when we didn't intend to, but now as an IT services shop, the apprenticeship program, especially with as Jennifer mentioned, we didn't set out to be a D&I program, but it just so happened 39% are people of color, 60% are women, and a lot of single moms that are coming back to the workplace. So it just happened. But these are just driven, skilled people that just need a shot. So now as we look at the landscape of our family photo around our company, we are very diverse, and that those diverse teams do bring different schools of thought that have helped our clients. Our clients have now seen that, and now they're asking us to do it for them in multiple cities and multiple locations. Humana being one, that's how we got introduced to the Wisconsin market. Humana has a very large presence, as you may know, in the Green Bay area. So they said, well, if you can do this in Louisville and Eastern Kentucky and Atlanta and even Texas and places that we have presences, can you do it in Wisconsin? And that's kind of where the conversation started. So for us, not only has it been a solution to our talent problem, but it's also been very rewarding to see people who have the aptitude, but just not the opportunity to survive in tech. And we're a for-profit company. We've been able to make the economics work to where investing $12,000 to $20,000 a person is part of our model. We see that ROI come back pretty quickly. We monitor and measure almost every inch of our program, and our numbers are pretty, like everyone else here who has had success. Our numbers are in the same vein. We've actually staffed. We actually have a cohort starting next week that we've already sold every graduate. So we're going on day one saying, you have a job if you passed. So there's nothing more I can get. There's no more incentive I can give you than that. So with that, it kind of going into these sort of, I know a lot of our friends here are from the larger markets, Milwaukee and what have you, but when you look at some of the smaller markets we've been able to serve, we find talent almost everywhere, and we believe it does exist everywhere. It just needs to be nurtured and cultivated a bit, and our team is very proud to do that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or feel free to reach out to me offline if you'd like to know more.
All right, thank you. Joe, share a little bit with us about the generator programs.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I want to, just as I'm beginning, in 9 years, I've never been on a panel with NRC, and I just want to thank a foundational partner in our company, the NRC, Carly and her team, Mark, the leadership of that company, Mark and Don, have been personal mentors to me. I saw someone in the chat talk about the role that NRC played in their career, but that group has invested in our accelerator, which has gone on to create 5,000 jobs. Every dollar we invest into a community, $30 of follow-on capital come. We're one of the most diverse. I think we're the only one that publishes our statistics on diversity, race, and gender in the ranked programs. All of that stands on the shoulders of NRC. They don't do it for marketing. They're not trying to get your attention on that. But in 9 years, I've never had a chance to thank them publicly, and it's so overdue. And I'm very grateful to be here today, just to appreciate a leader in the Milwaukee community who's done so much for our startup, but for the tech community in general. And as I transitioned from that to who am I, started Generator 9 years ago. Our mission is we try to be the best partner for communities to invest into themselves. We think communities that are the most passionate about their next generation give us all and themselves the best chance of success. We built really a store with 2 products to support that. We have an accelerator. We started with startups. We now operate over, as you mentioned, Kim, over 40 programs across 24 cities. We're adding about a city a month. Our next expansions will be on the coast. So we're going from being a local to Midwest to now more national program. We'll graduate over 300 startups this year across those cities. We partner with 3 groups, civic groups, so the cities of Cleveland and Houston, the states of Indiana and Alabama, universities like the universities at Minnesota, Nebraska, Wisconsin, et cetera, and corporations, Boston Scientific, Universal Music Group, and relative to this discussion, Microsoft. We expanded those programs to music and art. Our flagship program there is we run the Motown Musician Accelerator with Motown Museum and Universal Music Group, which owns the label. And we through Microsoft, got to work with them in early stages of things like Titletown Tech, and with their TechSpark program that Michelle Schuler runs on TechSpark, and talked with them about how we could help try to build a stronger tech community here. It's been about a 4-year-long relationship. This year, we had the opportunity to join with them as they announced their new Microsoft Global Skilling Initiative, which is an adaptation of the LinkedIn, GitHub, and Microsoft Learn platforms designed around the 10 most in-demand jobs on LinkedIn. They've created essentially the old Lynda education platform content for jobs ranging from customer service and customer sales to graphic design and coding. They've created that to be consumed in partnership with groups like the Markle Foundation, to be a modular certificate-based program for people to sign up and self-administer their ability to digitally upskill themselves. When the program was announced, we were able and fortunate to work with Microsoft's TechSpark team, which is underneath Microsoft Philanthropy, and with New North. So we had a chance to be a part of the inaugural in-person program from this 25 million North American to global initiative to begin enrolling participants. The idea was we took our accelerator model, which surrounds individuals with community mentorship network experience, one-on-one support, and we took out the music, art, or startup content, and we put in the Microsoft Global Skilling Initiative content. Per the Microsoft Global Skilling Initiative focus, we drove the content to support individuals whose employment was impacted by COVID. So the last person who got placed as recently as last hour was a waitress, a single mother. You can imagine a lot in the hospitality industry are looking to participate in programs like these. It's also very diverse, just as a function of the people who are in the job market looking. And we publish all of that, and we're above the national metrics in most every geography relative, especially to race. The outcome of that program, over half the graduates were placed. They graduated about 6-8 weeks ago, and we're working to get that up to 100% as quickly as possible. We didn't have a network of employers. We were building this from scratch. While that was happening, we immediately expanded the program with New North as sort of the template. into 4, soon to be 5 different states. So we just completed our second cohort. Mind you, our whole participation in this with New North is less than 6 months old. So to be able to go through 2 full cohorts across 5 states is something we're really proud of. And now well over 100 graduates. This week is our first real kind of employment infrastructure. We have new year, new job. We have over 25 employers doing hundreds of interviews with the graduates across these 5 markets. And what we're trying to take advantage of is what we did in the startup space, which is, as you're a VC or an angel investor looking to invest in startups, it's hard to go to 100 different communities. My analogy is to invest across America is like going to 100 different grocery stores to do your shopping list. For national employers, it's a very similar infrastructure problem to employ. So what we did with Generators, we created a one-store shop where whatever community you're in, you can bring your inventory to this store, and then we'll facilitate. For startups, it's about 120 startup meetings. It started at about 20 4 years ago. We're getting, about 20 employer meetings per cohort now. Our job is to get that, over to 100 or 120 as we build out that national employer network. Our hope over the next few years is to create the first work from home COVID adapted employment program where no matter where you are, we're able to provide you with an opportunity to get entry level to advanced jobs using this content and this national network to help facilitate employment. So it's a real pleasure to be here, in part because without New North, this would never have happened. To have graduated 2 cohorts with New North in 5 months, it's just something we're extraordinarily proud of and extremely grateful to the community for helping to facilitate, and proud to be a part of the New North Tech Hub community. You guys have done a fantastic job.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for the kudos. And Rebecca, definitely encouraged to take that back to Barb, because I know that's been a huge win for the region, working with Generator on those programs.
Absolutely. We had a great update yesterday from Kroll on the program and where things are at. So they're doing great work and excited to see it continue to grow.
Thank you. So we've heard now from each of our organizations that kind of comprise our panel. I do have a few questions I can ask them, but really we wanted to open up from this point and really have this more of a fireside chat dialogue type time frame. So, if our members here in our virtual audience, who just so high level, so everybody knows, I am seeing some of our CIOs from the region, from some of our local companies. We have some professors and deans from our local education, in our local colleges, let me say it that way, on the call, as well as folks representing economic development. And I see at least one gal representing one of our professional women's networks on the call. So we've got a broad kind of cross slice from the community here. So, and if any of our audience members, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to either in the chat or feel free to open your mic and just, shout your question out. So I'll ask now, does anybody have a question that they'd like to lead the conversation off with?
This is Sarah. I'm the CIO at Thrivent, and I'm probably going to ask like the $1 million question. It's a question on everybody's mind. As we talk about local talent, which is something we think a lot about, care a lot about. The COVID pandemic has opened people's eyes to a different way. I'm just curious how that's impacted all of you and the way you're thinking about talent and where you go get talent.
That's a great question. I'd be happy to start. So I would say from our program standpoint, some of the observations we've had as a result of COVID have been our flexibility around entering new geographies. So when we had to very quickly move to an online learning environment, and then saw how successful it was, we all had to adapt, everyone had to figure it out. And we were able to produce the same level of quality of our graduates, even in this online environment. We started to become more flexible when it came to a client that wanted to perhaps go into Pittsburgh or Tampa, Florida, because we no longer had that barrier of needing physical training space and needing a local trainer. So we've been able to be more responsive to those needs of our clients. I think some of the other challenges that we saw that we had to address were helping clients understand how to onboard remotely and how to pull in engagement with a new resource when they're working full-time from home, and how to kind of manage and monitor and support those people. I will tell you from a talent availability standpoint, some of the trends that we saw in the Milwaukee area, like I said in my intro, our program isn't specifically targeted at computer science graduates. So we are really looking for the outside of comp sci. But our COVID cohorts, we did see a larger number of computer science graduates that were applying to our program because their jobs had been impacted by COVID. And so that was an interesting trend that we saw. We've been tremendously impressed with the talent in the Milwaukee community. In our most recent cohort, we had over 2,500 applicants. We hired 20 of them. And as we evaluated those resources across the panel, it was staggering how many of them were receiving, a perfect score from in a panel of 8 across all 8 of us. So, what I would say is in the region, there is some impressive talent. There's some really good talent that just needs skills that align more to what our local organizations need to hire.
I can add to that, Sarah. So there's 3 categories. I think one is how does the COVID impact us as a company? And we had been working remotely. That's an easy answer. We've been working remotely for 5 years, and we actually have had pretty much no vacation policy. You can kind of come and go. So we've had people who are being held accountable for their work. So our transition was pretty light. The second one were the students. So our training programs, we went online like everyone else. We had both a classroom option and an online option. What we learned is that our metrics, I mentioned we measure everything. We had more success online than offline. And what we attributed to was that people in a traditional classroom setting were maybe less likely to raise their hand and speak in front of a class, but they're very easily will add it into a chat or put it into a question in a private Slack channel to an instructor. Our instructor has commented that we were about 88% pass rate. We're at 96% now because he said that people are asking better questions and they're being more open and we're having deeper conversations. So they're getting the material kind of almost better online than they were naturally. The third one was the employers that we work with. And I'll actually put that in 2 parts. The employers, we had the ones that were not ready to go, that were not as ready as we were to go online. They basically had us do it. So they basically gave us, extended our contracts or said, hey, can you guys please recruit the talent, onboard the talent, skill them up, and now hold and deliver the work. So one solution was employers will source it out as part of a contingent labor strategy. That's one thing we saw as a trend. The second part was the individual. They want to know where their career goes. Okay, some of them have gone through our training program. They've got their apprenticeship, and they've never met a single person of our company in real, and they don't even live in our city. We have employees in 30 states. So overcoming that, they want to know what's next for me. How do I go from X dollars to X plus Y to this promotion to that thing? And one of the things we've done in Wisconsin with the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay is we've got a certificate program that we have added on. So once you get through our apprenticeship training or a pre-training, then you start working. We're working with the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay to give you certification online because we've known that they can learn it. People can learn it. And that gives you the skills you need to progress in your career. So adding that sort of university certification part of our program has kind of gotten us a lot of people who want to take this pathway. They say, let me go and get a skill, see if I'm good at it, get a job and work in the field in it. And if I do like it, I'm making good progress, we are willing to, work. We're working with Wisconsin to help upskill them even more. So it doesn't just stop with the apprenticeship. It goes on beyond that because our individuals have long-term goals. They want to know that this is a career, and we're making sure we're creating that pathway for them.
I think I'd echo the same kinds of things. I think one of the things, the silver lining, and I hate to even say there's a silver lining to COVID, but I think we all had this moment where everything stopped and we thought we couldn't make progress and we just were waiting for it to be over. And there was some point in time, and I started in this role on April 1st. So I've never been to an office with my employer. So we probably will never have an office now, because we've proven that we can do work without it. And we can do a lot of really great work remotely. I think that for training and employers, they sort of got to the point where they thought, well, we'll just all come back in person. And now that that's so far away, even with the vaccine, they're all realizing we're in this remote learning kind of environment for a while longer. We're going to have to sort of like lean into that. And I think they're finding a lot of the things that you've just talked about. We're not losing people. They're not succeeding virtually. They're actually doing pretty well. We have partners that are providing laptops and broadband in the event that someone doesn't have it. But at the end of the day, when they get on and they can do small group support and peer mentoring, it works. I know one of our partners, New Horizons, does a beautiful job in that they do, one-on-one mentoring in addition to, the courses that the students are taking. And that helps to get them to the finish line. And then the other part of our program that's really important is making sure that we're not asking people who have already been hurt or hit multiple times to go and invest money in a reskilling program where there's no job. That is the worst thing that we can do. And so a lot of things that we've been working on is making sure, again, that supply and the demand is hitting correctly, and that our employers are willing to bring on talent. And so that's where like Dev 10 and registered apprenticeship, these are all New Horizons Business IT Academy. These are all opportunities for reskilling with a guaranteed job. That's a big deal. And I think we're all in the business of trying to make sure that people have a chance to improve where they're at.
I'm going to jump in there. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And on a little bit of another side of the coin, although virtual right now is where we need to be, we are still seeing that some of our clients are still hoping that after the mass vaccination of the population, that there will be some on-site work, depending on the organization itself. And so it's almost a case-by-case basis in some instances. And so we are seeing that for our future cohorts, which are smaller than maybe some of the other folks on the panel, we focus on perhaps 5 to 10 individuals at a time, because it's for one client specifically and for a particular role within that one client. And so we are still planning on in the future doing a lot of on-site hands-on training, but obviously flexibility is key, and being able to do a combination of both or doing virtual if the need continues is something that we plan to do. But our hope is that we can keep the hands-on on-site learning as an aspect of how our program works at NRC.
Right. I do have a question that came in via the chat. So let's see if I can not get tongue-tied as I read this one. It says here, to all of our presenters, for those of us working in the pre-pipeline sector, are certain skills or competencies that you wish you would see in your incoming students that would make them even more successful in your programs and eventual employment?
Maybe I'll take that as a transition from the last question to this one. For the programs we ran, for example, in New North, Wisconsin, we targeted people whose employment had been impacted by COVID, versus, for example, we ran a program in Bloomington where it was a coding program, and we came in, frankly, with a lot of entrepreneurs or people upskilling within their internal companies. And it was a very different experience going through the program with those two cohorts. And I would make a bit of an analogy to the startup, comparable, which is, when a startup starts, it's pretty raw, but it'll grow, it'll get what's called seed funding and then venture funding, and there are stages. And I think that the talent ecosystem may be viewed in a parallel way, where, if you want to get to that mid-tier where I think there's more demand in the marketplace for skilled employers, there is a gap in terms of what we see as entry-level employment. It was a lot easier to get the coding individuals placed than it was at this early stage. But I think one is a predicate to the other. If you don't cast, you don't catch. In the startup space, if you don't seed fund, you're not going to see other types of funding. I joke on the last question that I was going to say, when we started, my co-founder and I used to write that on our tombstones. They're going to write, "That guy emailed me," because there was, with no brand and no distribution, the only way to engage people was proactively. And at this very early stage, as we're trying to, going to the point of the question, work with people at this pre-stage who are looking to get employment, because of COVID-related issues. It's a very similar need to build infrastructure. And we've been working hard at going to motels, to hospitality industries to circulating through individuals who are trying to help people. And there are issues that I think are more common at that stage. For example, in the early stage programs, we run into a lot more recidivism and reentry issues, and especially criminal background disclosures in the job application process, and trying to help individuals prepare. I had one heartbreaking one with a really great candidate. She did all the work on time, completely the type of person you want your culture, an old record case, and she didn't get through. She got a job offer, accepted it, but got kicked out at the screening stage because she didn't disclose a misdemeanor from some earlier stage. And we were saying it's okay. I think the transparency is what we're after, not a lack of the issue. And working with the candidates, I think at those early stages, we find there's a ton of demand for virtual interviews. And we're dealing with people who have a lot of, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but they're worried about, does my hard work ethic in industry A with not digitally enabled skills, or not to this extent, transfer to industry B with more digitally enabled focus? They're fine. We don't have issues with the graduation or the completion, but we do have a lot of anxiety about the mock interviews and the actual interviews. So I think just the soft skills of working with individuals to make them feel comfortable, especially if you're at that pre-stage, which usually means they're new to the tech workforce. It's an intimidating change, and it's as much about, overcoming your mental barriers as your skill barriers. And I think we've been trying to provide a lot of that. That was much less of an issue at Bloomington, which was, I would say, further downstream, although not as far downstream as some of the partners on this call. So I think as you're looking at that, new entrant spectrum, the more soft skill support you can provide there, our experience has been that's better. What I'll say is, relative to the two programs, I have found way more challenges, but also life rewarding events in my life from people who, it's one thing to get a promotion from A to B. It's another thing to feel like a change of kind, from a place where you felt stalled to an industry where you feel so much potential. So I think it's a real priority for communities that want to retool, and I'm glad it's a focal point of the discussion. Whoever asked it, please just focus on those soft skills and building that infrastructure so that people feel comfortable participating in programs like this.
Yeah, and Joe, I think totally agree with you on the soft skills. What I would add to that is one of the things that not only we will very often someone will fall out of our selection process, but another thing we hear from our clients, it's their ability to demonstrate their passion and their drive, their follow through. So there are a couple of steps of our selection process that are very time consuming, require them to stay persistent, require them to balance their own priorities just in the pursuit of getting in. And we get a huge drop off at that point in the process. And for us, that's a good sign, because we don't want those people in our training because they're probably not going to get through it. But even once they're going to the client and they're interviewing with the client, really being able to show their excitement, show why they chose this. We're asking our clients to, in many ways, to take a chance on these resources because they are coming from non-traditional backgrounds. And a lot of our clients are really accepting of that concept because they think they have someone with these incredible raw materials that they can mold within their environment. But encourage the candidate to really show that. Talk about why they're excited about this pathway. Talk about why they chose to go through a track like this, a training program, because I do think that resonates with the employers and is a really important part when they're going through that interview and selection process.
I agree with what Jennifer said. And in addition to that, I think it's important that, as you said, people are coming from non-traditional backgrounds, or maybe they don't have a particular degree that's not specific to IT. Perhaps they're coming from HR or from finance, or perhaps they're a veteran. And so being able to look at skills that are transferable and applicable into a new role, such as if they were a veteran, maybe they were a sergeant or platoon leader, and they have that leadership mentality and understanding, they're able to command a room, those skills then can be transferred into a new role where it would be extremely helpful in a particular IT job. But we have to understand that maybe the resume, when you're just looking at that, you don't see that on the surface. So being able to look at the talent and kind of dig deeper and understand what skills do they have that we can then move over here and help them be successful. And I think that's something that employers are looking to fill is finding those, like someone else said, those soft skills that then can be transferred.
Thank you. I know we've got Jace Scheffler from Tanduo. You had a question you wanted to ask?
Thank you, Kim. And this one, well, just an intro. Tanduo, we're a little IT service company, a startup here in Green Bay, kind of a grassroots movement to mentor and coach kind of junior level talent with senior talent. And this is directly towards Jennifer Turnquist at Dev 10, but I think if anybody has other coaching advice, that'd be appreciated. But the question is, you noted that when your students graduate from the program, that there's kind of a peership or coaching. And I was curious as to how long that went on as the student takes on that new role, and kind of what the strategy is for the coach and the mentor to help them be successful. And then if anyone else has follow up on what have you seen as helpful being a good coach?
Well, I love that you asked that because my first role on the Dev 10 program was as one of the coaches. So I came into it supporting the graduates on their first client engagements. Our approach is very structured. So it's a 12-month development program, really the entire duration of their assignment with the client. And we have key skills that we are training them on. There's a schedule, there's a regular cadence, and it's both professional development skills. So some of the soft skills that they need to further develop, business writing, leadership qualities, and then it's also technical, so ongoing technical training. Whether that's, so there's a combination of, there's some core modules that we train them on, and then they each get a personal development plan that is tied to the technologies they're working on. If they're a front-end developer, maybe they need an extra advanced React class, whatever those things are. So that's our approach. The other piece of it is the people that are coaches and mentors are coming in with years of industry experience. So we are bringing in experienced people that they're ready to give back. They have an opportunity to give back. My background, for example, I actually was a computer science major many years ago. Yes, was the only woman in my graduating class. So some things never change. We're still having the same conversations today that we were some 30 some years ago. But my background was in IT consulting. So I started as a developer, and then I was a project manager and a program manager. I then switched over to infrastructure and managed a data center. So I had stories, I had experiences, and a lot of the coaching and mentoring of this emerging level talent is about just having somebody to bounce an idea off of. And it's, things like, I can't get any time with my manager. So helping them talk through, okay, here's some different creative approaches, because our managers are all really busy and they don't necessarily have time to come over and give you a hug every other day and tell you that you're awesome. So, a lot of that, just some of the new professional coaching, to the comment that Joe made about the imposter syndrome. We definitely see that in our Dev 10 program, mostly on our career changers. So about 50% of our candidates are actually making a career change. We see a lot from the education field, a lot of teachers that come into, math teachers that come into our program. And they have all the skills and all the abilities, but they have this sense of insecurity that, well, I don't know, am I actually really good at this? Can I really do this? And so just having somebody that can reinforce for them what they're doing, help them identify metrics to measure the success of their delivery. The other piece of our program that is really fun to watch, and it was really fun to watch during COVID, is we have a network of alumni, of graduates through our Dev 10 program, and it isn't just geography. So we have obviously our Milwaukee graduates, and our cohorts are shockingly connected. They've kind of gone through the war together. Our training is very intense. They're working 60, 70 hours a week. We always say we don't get through a curriculum without somebody crying. It's intense. They're working nights, they're working weekends, and they really bond. And what happens is then they graduate and they disperse across the community to different clients, but they stay connected. They use all the tools, they're slacking and talking to each other. They bounce ideas off each other if they have a problem when it comes to a technical problem that they're working on at their client. So it's multiple levels of, they have someone like me at the time, they have this program level ongoing training, and then just that network of their peers that they can talk to. Jace, did that answer your question? Okay, good.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a question here, kind of flipping the table a little bit. This question is for our employers in the room. So what barriers are you facing that we might be able to address?
I'll share one. I think intrinsic bias of people who came from different backgrounds and don't have and learn something in 3 months. I mean, I think colleges serve 15% of the population, and that's great. That's not enough supply to go around for the demand. So employers have to get creative and start figuring out things that are a little outside their comfort zone. We've had to do that in some cases where we have a CEO of a large enterprise that loves what we do and wants to do it. He gets pushback from the CIO saying, I can't really utilize someone who's went through a boot camp, intrinsic bias, without checking out what my guys or gals can do. So we basically have to quash that, and we say, look, let me do a 3-month engagement at no cost or low cost, low cost, and we'll prove it to you. And that same CIO now is ordering 40, 50 people from us at a time. So that story I've done about 16 to 17 times with one failure. And the failure was because we brought folks that needed to do that learned Python, and he put them on a PHP project. And that was not something that they were set up for success to do. So I'll take my own lumps on that mistake, but for the most part, it works. But you have to get employers employers need to start thinking creatively and not just looking at ways to buy talent from the open market, but build it there in the fashion they need to. So that's what we've seen. I mean, and are preaching.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a barrier, but first of all, I want to thank the panelists. This has been really great today, and the information you're sharing and seeing the great work that you're doing is inspiring, actually. But it kind of speaks to the question, or the interest that I've always had, kind of speaks to, I think, what you were talking about, Jennifer, when you talk about the rigor of getting the people into the program. And one of the things that I'm always interested to understand, I always talk about, IT is not for the faint of heart, right? So if you're coming in and looking to work from 8 to 5 and have everybody come in and thank you for all the work that you've done today, you're probably in the wrong career. But when you talk about, that rigor, I mean, people had made a decision at some point in their life to go into something else, and now they're making a choice. And is that because it's just another job? Or but with the rigor that you're talking about, Jennifer, about making sure that people truly understand and they have the passion for it, because that's what I'm interested to understand, is that, are they getting into this because they truly want to make a life change? Are they truly going into it because of the passion for IT, and for whatever reason in their life they couldn't make that change and now they can? And it sounds like you're putting the people through the right process to make sure you weed out for the people that are just looking for another job, because I think they're ultimately going to flame out in IT. So that's I'm trying to understand, what is your success rate when the climate changes of people saying, well, this IT really isn't for me. So it's really farther down the path than the first job, maybe the 2-3 years down the path. Does anybody have any experience or data to support what really happens as they evolve through their career?
We do. Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
So, Pat, as a private employer, before we invest $15,000 in a person, we want to know that they got what it takes and know what they're getting into, right?
Right.
So when we recruit for a new cohort, let's say we have a class of 25 people. Well, we recruit 40, and we tell 25, you've got a spot. You 15 are alternates in case something happens. For the month before the first day of class, we have 40 hours of pre-work that we have people do, which simulates what it's like to not only take our class, but also work in a dev environment. Typically what we do, what we learn in that sort of month, we have about 4 to 5 people drop out because this isn't for me. That's really hard. C, they don't complete the pre-work. D, they have other reasons, whatever it may be. But the 15 people, the alternates, if you will, the folks who finished that, we're able to pull those folks from that pool into the new one. And that has been probably the assessment piece. And keep in mind, we've assessed, and I did skip over the fact that for 25 seats, we have a 10% acceptance rate. So we're getting 250 applicants for the 25. And even in those 25, we have, risks. So we help mitigate that by the alternate slot. That once we do that, we have an 85% completion rate. So 85% of the people who start the day 1 finish day 90. And the reasons are not performance. It's usually a life reason. Right. Someone got sick, somebody got deployed to Afghanistan, et cetera. Things like that happen. But out of those 85% that pass, we have 100% placement rate within 30 days. of a job or with us or another employer.
Yeah. And I also
So-
want to add, I used the retention too, Ankur. I mean, like your
Oh.
program, I know I think that the value that the candidates place, and I'm sure all of the providers here will say this, they're so thankful to, have a new career. Like it wasn't something that they planned on. They've already experienced life. A lot of them are, average age of the registered apprenticeships is 32. I think it's probably similar. And so, they've had a lot of experiences, and they're really excited about having the opportunity to have a career path that pays what tech careers pay. And so the retention numbers are significantly higher. And a lot of our employers basically are tired of training up staff, out of the colleges and then having them just jump ship to their competitor. We don't find that with registered apprenticeships. We don't find that with a lot of programs like Dev 10 and otherwise. They stick because they're really happy. And there isn't like the grass is green on the other side. They're just really happy that an employer took the time and invested in them. So I would say there is definitely a difference with these programs.
No, I mean, that
Oh,
doesn't make
sorry.
sense. I mean, just quickly, the people that I've taken a chance on in my career and given them an opportunity coming from either a diverse background or some challenge or bad decision potentially they made previously in their life, they tend to have that commitment, loyalty, and passion to the organization. So that sounds like it rings true with this too.
Well, and Pat, when you had those experiences, they offered just as much reward to you too, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that's what we hear from our customers as well is yes, our graduates come in and they are so excited to be there that they're hugging their coach the first day. But what we're finding is that the managers that are participating in this journey with them, they're also more fulfilled and more rewarded. So it really works both ways, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And to Abby Adric from New Horizons, I work pretty closely with Laura Schmidt here in Milwaukee. One of the things that we're seeing a lot is, as crazy as this last year has been with COVID, for those people that were laid off in the, unfortunate events that they had experienced, this is a great opportunity for them to make a career change. Not everybody knew that their job was going to be taken away from them, and it's like what we find is people are now starting to reevaluate, like maybe IT is a good option for me, and maybe this background that I have and trying to find the positives of a really crappy situation that we're all experiencing has been really eye-opening for a lot of the students that we have specifically in Milwaukee, and I just think it's great to give them opportunities not only to continue to learn new skills, but then to also be able to start a new career journey, in an area they may have never thought that they could fit.
Yes, and with the career journey that you're talking about, we've also found that, as others have mentioned, there's really that long-term growth. Many of our former candidates are now senior directors at companies like Harley Davidson, Veolia, Batteries Plus, Delta Dental. They stayed with those companies. They grew and they elevated their status, became in roles where they had more responsibilities, and they started in just a training program, perhaps as a career changer or from a non-traditional background. And so I think, as many of the other panelists have said, it's that dedication and loyalty that they feel to that company. They want to stay with them. They want to grow with them. And we've seen that as well.
One of the ones that my most recent start, we're much newer programs, so I'm pretty limited in our ability to talk about prolonged events. But one of the most recent story I had is we had startups that graduated in the first cohort that went to work at Fortune 500s in Green Bay. Another one got a job at Bright Sellers, which is a startup that relocated. It's two MIT kids relocated from Boston to Milwaukee. They ship wine to home, so you can imagine this year was a very successful year. And they have an internal sommelier program. And so they hired two people out of the cohort, and they were telling me they think one of them is going to take this sommelier course internally. And so I could tell you with at least some confidence that at least one sommelier may emerge as a career range. But the feedback beyond the humor of it was that they were an employee with range. They saw this as someone who could come in, at the entry point of where they were with the skill, but that they were also going to learn, all the digitally associated skills in their company, and that they would anticipate this was, the kind of entry level of a career trajectory. that's again a 2 or 3 month old assessment, but they've hired hundreds of people. They have a relatively good sense on the stack, and there wasn't a tension point that this person wasn't qualified or capable of succeeding beyond the skill they were hired for. Again, I have pretty limited data though.
So we are, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I do have a couple of wrap up slides that I want to make sure we get to. But before I transition over to those, we've got a couple folks from the Department of Workforce Development on here. So they're in touch with the people who may be looking to reskill over. And again, kind of putting my hat on for our employers. So let's say I want to learn more. How do I get involved in the program as a program participant? Or if I'm an employer, how do I connect with you in order to hire some of your trainees? So I think we'll start with Joe, and we'll go around the table, so to speak.
Yeah, we're anticipating another 100+ graduates in Northeast Wisconsin. So if anyone is interested, we are looking to place. The local placements are the best placements. So if anyone is interested, I'm Joe at Generator. I can put it in the text, or just reach out to the New North team, and we'll set up a call with our crew. We anticipate adding more skills and more content. So if you're looking at the 10 most in-demand jobs and you want to hire but not one of those, please do reach out. We're hoping to work with intra-skilling. So if any of this sounds of interest, even if it's not directly on hiring. And then we have room for people to help with mentoring, practice coach, helping to refer people in. So even if it's in that secondary realm, please do reach out, because again, we'll be running a number of cohorts starting in about 3 weeks. So thank you for the time and really appreciate the chance to talk about it. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome. Ankur, how do we get a hold of you and your folks?
I sent my email in the chat, so happy to answer. We have as of last week, we have a PO for about 150 data analysts, data scientists, and entry-level programmers that we are filling. So we're in the process of seeing if they need to sit in a certain location based on our client's request, or if we can do it remotely. And I think we're going to get a half and half answer. So if that's the case, we might have some we have opportunities everywhere. We're going to be putting out, sort of this reskilling, upskilling opportunity across a couple of states, Wisconsin being one of them. So happy to chat with anyone about anything I've discussed. Our playbook is pretty much an open book. So happy to share our best practices if anyone's interested in setting something similar up or learning some of the mistakes we've made along the way and how we've overcome them.
Thank you. And Carly.
Yes, thank you so much. And real quick, I just want to say thank you to Joe at Generator. We're really happy to be a part of your project and so proud of the success you've had. But if anyone wants to get in touch, I also put my contact in the chat. You can email me, and then I will forward you to whichever team member is the best fit to support you on your journey to finding talent or particular skills that you need filled at your organization.
All right.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Yes, so I will do the same. I put my phone number and email in the chat. Much like the others, we are on track. Our forecast for Milwaukee, greater Milwaukee area is around about 125 people based on client demand. We scale based on the clients. Much to Laura's comments about we need our employers to be willing to consume these individuals. We can help grow the tech talent base. As you can tell, we have a lot of great programs in the region that will produce more tech talent, but we need to have jobs for them. Because none of us want to promise someone this future and then not be able to deliver on it. So excited to learn more from you. Please reach out.
Thank you. And Laura.
I think that the best direct connection is with all the providers on this call. I think we're an employer collaborative. I think that if you have questions about how we were structured or what some of our employers have done to overcome some of the challenges we've discussed today, definitely reach out. I'm happy to talk with you. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we provide you with solutions, and any one of the providers on this call is going to be able to help you with that. I did post a couple things. We have a Reskill Milwaukee campaign in the Milwaukee area. And not that matters to you guys up in the Northeast, but what it does have is a lot of articles from our partners and our employers talking about how they made this all work. And so maybe that is one way of just like reading through that and seeing if it has any inspiration for you, but always willing to be available for a call.
All right, thank you. All right, and a huge round of applause. Thank you so much to our presenters today. And thank you for taking the time to come and join us and talk with our group here. So before we all head home, or at least out of our office doors for the day, I just want to share a couple last thoughts with you. So this is one of our regular quarterly meetings. Here on the slide in front of you, you can see the other dates for our remaining quarterly meetings throughout the year. You are all welcome to join and participate moving forward. It's simply a phone call away. Likewise, our Computer Science Advisory Board meetings, you'll see also listed here. Those are also open, and we encourage and really would love to have employers and others at that table to talk with K-12 and help us solve that early pipeline challenge. We are also in the midst of scheduling out our tech talks. These will be, again, open to the public. Historically, we've hosted these on college campuses. They are geared towards our college students, but what we've done is we've brought in guest speakers to talk about some leading edge technology in order to help our students understand what's going on right in their own backyards. So they realize the fun, cool jobs aren't always on the coastlines. But we're also broadening this, since we are working in a virtual world, to the community, so that the digitally curious can come and learn as well. And then we have yet to schedule our new Connect IT event in November. We're kind of in a wait and see. Do we want to do this face-to-face this year? Are we going to be able to do it face-to-face, or will we be doing that again in a virtual model? So once that's determined, that too will get out on our events page. All of these can be accessed by going out to our website, newdigitalalliance.org/events. And then if you didn't catch them earlier and you're looking to learn a little bit more about what we're doing, here are those links that I shared earlier in the meeting, direct links to where we're housing our advisory board notes, our summit notes, and our quarterly meeting notes as well. Again, the data that we share, and then the annual report is also housed out there. So with that, thank you all for participating today. I appreciate all of our guest speakers taking the time out of their day to not only prep, but then present for us today. And thank all of you for attending and listening in. We hope this was useful for you as you try and find talent for your organizations. And we look forward to seeing you at our next quarterly meeting.
Thank you for having us.